right, so it appears I'm live. Okay, so I'm not sure if I should wait for folks to start signing in or if I should just go ahead. Yeah, so I put out I think it was a Facebook post earlier today, short notice, and I also put something on my Instagram as to me going live tonight. Hey, Specs Auto 758. What's up, my brother? Yeah. Funny thing is that I see I think I follow your Instagram page, but I honestly I don't know who you are. So one of them days I would like to see the face behind the name Specs Auto. Alright. I think I see Hasiel also in the comments. So alrighty. So yeah, so like I was saying, I put out a post earlier today. Just tuned. Yeah, hello Hasiel. I can never make out your username, Hasiel. Yeah, I remember who you are, Hasiel, the VW bug. Waiting to get to see you finish that one so we can tune it up. Um, I'm not even sure how I get to see. I'm horrible with these things. Uh, 1 second. I think what I will do, I have my other phone there. I will use the other phone to. I'm a mess to get the comments. All right, so let's get this started. I told my wife it'll be very quick tonight. Set up my light and everything. You can see proper quality. But I'm in the E30 today. Yeah, so I'll start off with what I went live for, and then we will. What happened? See, I'm not prepared. I'll start off with that, and then we will take it from there. All right, guys, give me 1 second. Let me turn off that water pump because it will just be super noisy all night long. All right, so I'm back. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I'll start off with what I started off with started what I intended to do on the live stream, and then we will take it from there. So let me just use my other phone so that I can read some comments because I'm not too sure how this thing works. All right, so some comments. Yeah. All right, so yeah, so Specs Auto, Hasiel, Justune, and I think we have a few others. So first things first, I'm not sure those of you who follow my social media or not. I do have a Toronto trip planned. I'm not even sure if it's vacation or actual work. So the intent is it's actually supposed to be vacation for me, but I do have a few friends and customers that I need to help out when I get there. So few friends and customers I need to help out when I get there. So I may end up doing some work as well. Um, I will be traveling there from this Sunday, the 16th, to. Okay, 1 second again, guys. I'm busy. All right, so yeah, so I will be traveling to Toronto from the 16th to up until the 13th of August. So I will be away. For those of you who were looking to do remote tune, I think I put out a bulletin that what I tried to do was my cutoff was tomorrow or is tomorrow, so that I won't be taking any new tunes, any remote tunes that is. Anyone who tries to book, if it's up to you if you want to book it, but then it will have to be done when I get back in August. So that's that. Hopefully that doesn't interfere with too many folks' plans, but I don't want to travel and have the responsibility of having to stick to a timeline that I give someone. I don't want to say that I'm going to be doing something tomorrow and I'm on vacation and I cannot get to it and then someone is upset. So I rather just not do it. Next up, yeah, so we will, whilst we're there, we will be using Steve's dyno. I'm not sure in what part of, I think it's like an hour away from central Toronto. So we will be using his Mustang dyno. It's an all-wheel drive dyno. So we hope to make some content out of that. We have a few cars, like I said, that we're going to be using on the dyno. I think Kofi has a Kofi, if you're watching this live, I have some holy water I need to travel with from St. Lucia for you because Kofi has had a bunch of issues. So the plan with Kofi, I'm traveling with an ECU. He has a Megascope free that is just giving him a whole lot of issues. So the plan for Kofi is we're going to pull out that Megascope free, put in a wire in a Speedway overnight, and hopefully a couple of days later, probably clean up on the highway and then finish it off on the dyno. These plans are very low for what the engine is. He only wants like 400 wheel, so we'll try to do 400, 450 for a good measure thereabout. Alan's car, the E30 with the M3 swap on the ITVs, we have to do that. I did that. That was one of my first remote tunes. I think it was my first remote tune, so we need to finish that. That car has been driving for the better part of, I think, 5 years with a 1 hour remote tune. So Alan, I'm dragging that car to the, I think we did Nuno's car. Nuno's car put a little over 400 wheel remotely. So, but I think it blew up his diff. So hopefully we can launch on that and get Nuno's car up. Adrian's car, I think we made on the 1.8, we made like almost 300 wheel. So anyways, we have a bunch of cars to do that with. Other housekeeping matters, my Speedway, those I am an official Speedway dealer. Now, those of you have been asking, yes, I intend to sell ECUs on the site. However, I haven't gotten around to put it up there. The days just, yeah, so the days just go by. So that's about all I wanted to my announcement to keep anybody waiting. So I'll just go through the comments first, and then I'll take in the questions that I have afterwards. JS, I have so many questions, but glad you're doing that live. Yeah, so shoot a question down in the comments and I'll be happy to answer. Yeah, so Hasiel the bug. I have a question. When you have a moment, I have a base tune on the speed and however, should this be enough to start the engine to idle, or are there any parameters which require some adjustments? Before I call the remote tune, I want to verify all is working. That's a very good question, especially for anyone who's looking to remote tune. It depends on what's in your base tune. What I like to do, I used to sell base tunes. I stopped because that brings along more stress than than I like. So for base tunes, it's not Speedway specific, it's not Mega Squirt, it's not Haltech specific. What is good enough to start a car? I will start off with fuel. The cars generally can start off on a wide range of fuel ratios. So rich, lean, as long as it's not too rich or too lean, like too rich where the car will foul the plugs, or too lean where it does not get enough to start the car will start up. So as long as fuel is in the ballpark, your injectors are roughly in. So if you have 550cc injectors, even if you have like incorrect data and you have it at 500, the car will still start and run. The big All right. Yeah, I'm back, guys. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened to my Wi-Fi there. Okay. So should I wait for you guys to come back in? All right. So I see I have one person back in. Anyways, so I think I will just start off where I left off. Sorry about that, guys. Football countries, football Wi-Fi just dropped on me last minute. Tried switching to my data, but it was not having me. So I'm back. Yeah, so I was saying, so when it comes to the standalone, the most important thing is inputs and outputs. So make sure your fuel pump is turning on, make sure the ECU is turning on your fuel pump, make sure that it's wired to the injectors, etc., etc. With the ECU that you will Yeah, I'm just getting to your comment, Hasiel. Yeah, so make sure the ECU is connected to your um fuel pump. So the inputs are going where they're supposed to go, outputs are going where they're supposed to go. Fueling does not really matter as long as it's in the ballpark. Trigger angle is very important. Make sure at least you get to the trigger angle. What you can do is before you start the car, you can lock the timing, have someone crank the car for you, point the timing light at it, and then make sure the timing is in the ballpark. It doesn't have to be super spot on. So if you lock it to 10 degrees, it can be 10, it can be 15, 17 in the ballpark. The car will start and run for the most part. And that's about it, really. I tell folks the hardest thing to get when you do a new installation is RPM. As long as you can get RPM, everything else is good to go. So as long as you can see RPM in your ECU, in your case, your speed window, you're good to go. You don't even need ATEM sensors or anything really to start a car. It'll start and run with bare bones. So as long as you have that, the car will start and run. The first thing I like to do as soon as the car runs, I just let it get a little bit of temperature in it, and then I just chop some fuel out of it. Most times I usually do base tunes and start it up where it's a little bit rich. So I chop some fuel. As long as it's maybe like an 11 or 12 to begin with, I will start off there, and then I will trim fuel. After that, lock the timing, make sure the timing is fully synced, and then make sure everything else is good. As long as you get your first start out of the way, the rest is usually easy. Okay, I think there was another comment. Just Tune or JUS Tune, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but Just Tune. How do you deal with sync loss? I'm tuning a Mazda 2.6 liter 4.3. I'm guessing 36 minus 1 trigger wheel with a Hall center, shielded power wires, and some crank signal wires still get random sync loss. Filter on aggressive. So that's usually. I just tuned it. You got it. Oh, just tuned. Okay, just tuned. Okay. All right. So usually for sync loss, it's very weird to see that you are using a Hall sensor and you actually get in sync loss. The size of the trigger wheel is very important as well, and it depends on which trigger, which Hall sensor you're using. Some of them have a minimum tooth size that they need. If you go too small, it has trouble reading it. That's what I've noticed with Hall. But Hall generally does not have a lot of sync loss, so it might be the size of the 36 minus 1 trigger wheel. What else have I seen that would cause it? Generally, I have not had much experience with Halls causing sync loss. I had some with my my E30, my SR20, when I put in the speed reader on it. What happened was I had a 36 minus 1 cast disc mounted at the cam speed, so it was seeing 36 minus 2, 72 teeth roughly. So what I found was at high RPMs, it was just causing havoc. I'm not sure the sizes of the slots and whatnot, but it never worked for me in high RPMs. So again, it depends very much. What ECU are you using, by the way? I'm using the do-it-yourself auto tune for this 8-inch with yeah. So that is very strange. Which ECU are you using? Very strange that you have an 8-inch wheel and then you get in sync loss. I bought one of them and I put it on a 22RE. I don't think it was an 8-inch. It was maybe a 5.5 or I think 5.25. With the GS10005 sensor, and that truck has been running for the better part of 3 years without any sync loss, so it's a bit weird. Detonation EMS, I'm guessing the X4. Yeah, running crank only, no cam sensor. Yeah, so that's a bit weird that you have it. You have which pull up are you using? I know you can configure them for I think 1K pull up, 10K, and then Yes, I remember I had a little difficulty with that, but that's a bit weird that you experiencing that. I had, I have no experiences with Hall. Well, no bad experiences with Hall sensors. Okay, very weird. Shoot me an email, and I will try to at least point you in the right direction before I leave. Well, before I stop working tomorrow. Okay. So let me go into the comments. I was actually hoping that this live would probably be 15 minutes. I don't think it's gonna be that. So, some of the questions were posted mainly on my DMs. No problem, Justin. All right. So, question number one: ECU. I cannot recall the name of whoever asked it, but ECU communication and powering safely. So, I'm guessing the person is asking about ECU communication. I'm not sure what you mean by ECU communication and powering safely. For power, the powering safely part, the way I usually wire cars is you would have one main relay, especially if you build in the harness, and that main relay turns on every single other relay. So that main relay would now power up your ECU. And most ECUs, contrary to popular belief, the ECU does not need a lot of power. So you can put like a 5 amp fuse in there. The ECU should not, most ECUs should not pull more than 5 amps. If you pull in more than 5 amps, then you definitely have an issue. Most ECUs use grounds to do all the heavy lifting. So your injectors and everything else are triggered by grounds. So you do need heavy grounds going to the ECU, but not power. So the power is very simple. Key on from your switch barrel. In my car, I have like a switch panel, and that turns on a relay, and that relay turns on my ECU. So the communication part, I'm not sure what you meant by that. Second question: how do you pick the right ECU? I think I made a video about that a year or two ago. But it's sort of a long topic. One, I would say goals. Start with goals. You need to know what exactly is your goal for your ECU or your purchase. So, do you just want a car that you can just drive around? You don't really care about boost control. You don't care about traction control. You don't care about any of that. What exactly is your goal? You need to list that. And then you need to start narrowing it down. But the best, yeah, what's up, bro? Yeah, so one of the best things to do, and I always recommend, and it's often said, is if you want to pick the correct ECU, you get a tuner. But that is a double-edged sword. A lot of tuners have certain issues that they like to use, and they lock their customers into what they like to use, even though it's not the right fit for the customer. I think that too is wrong. That's just as bad as getting the wrong ECU. So what I mean by that, you have a tuner that may be experienced with Microtech, for instance. In my opinion, Microtech is as good as a digital calculator. It sucks. Another tuner may be very familiar with AEM. Yeah, gotta go. All right, no problem, Asiel. So another tuner may be familiar with AEM, and then he may want you to do that. I have my opinion about AEM, so that might be a little bit misleading. So goals: pick what you want out of your ECU. Pick a good tuner, someone that you know is transparent and is not going to try to just take you for every dime. And then it always boils down to budget. Budget. It makes no sense that you try a nickel and diamond ECU. Your ECU and your injectors are probably the two biggest investments and two most critical investments you make for your car. So make sure you have a realistic budget and do not try to buy what you can afford just now. And now the flies are coming in the light. Anyways, yeah, do not try and you can save up a little bit more and then get something that works for you. Nowadays most mainline ECUs are very good, so you cannot really go wrong with getting a Haltech, Link, Speeduino, a Mega Squid. It all boils down to what you want, so you need to have that conversation. Second question was, how do you pick the best tuner? I don't think personally there is a best tuner. I believe best is very subjective. Picking the tuner, I would say go by their track record. Go by what people have to say about them. Don't go by social media. Social media is very misleading. People always post the best of their stuff. They would take that beautiful photo to say that they're working on 10,000 horsepower cars, but they're not. But go by what everyone has to say about that guy. Um, Experience. Obviously, the person must be familiar with your platform. So if you're looking to tune a Honda, it doesn't make sense you bring it to a guy who only does Subarus. That usually won't go well. An engine is an engine, mostly. As long as you can tune an engine well, you should be able to tune almost everything well. But the difference is guys who are familiar with certain platforms, certain ECUs know the quirks. So um, I do a lot of Miatas, so way too many Miatas. So I know Miatas very well. Subarus, Hondas as well. But the thing about it is that if you give me a very weird engine, say you give me some weird Vauxhall, something that I've never seen, I can get it to work, I can get it to make power. Someone who maybe does these specific engines all day long would be able to do it a lot quicker than me. Probably, I dare say, quicker, more efficient than me. Does that make him a better tuner? You decide. Best is subjective. So you pick someone who's very familiar with your platform. Another thing I see that bites persons in the butt a lot is when they go with the most popular guy. The most popular guy also has the most clients. So be prepared if you pick in the guy who does all the 1,000 horsepower 2JZs and you want your 2JZ tune, more than likely you have 1,000 customers as well. So there's a waiting list. So it's a balance. It's a lot. But I would start off with check out their rating, see what people are saying about them, see what their turnaround time is on the tune, see. And the other thing is that do not go by who makes the most horsepower. I say it all the time, horsepower is very easy to make. As a matter of fact, it's the easiest part of the tune. Just because someone does a bunch of 500 wheel horsepower cars doesn't mean he cannot do 1,000. Maybe it's just that's what his customers bring to him. Also, conversely, the guy who does all the 1,000 horsepower cars does not mean that you will get a good tune because he tunes the 1,000 horsepower car. Drivability and all this stuff comes into play. 2, how to learn to tune. That one is a very long question. I learned the hard way. I learned by experimenting. Nowadays there are a lot of good resources. I highly recommend the High Performance Academy courses. That usually is very good, and they break it down very easy for you guys. And lastly, the last question I have here is the dyno better than the street? That can be debated all day long. I think both are important. I think a healthy tune would start on the street. Ideally, start on the street, clean up the map. That way, when you do the bulk of the work on the street, the customer does not have to take the car to the dyno and spend 10 hours on the dyno. So when you're on the street, it's free. The only thing you're paying your tuner for is time. You're paying for the fuel. It depends on where you live. It might be impossible, but at least you do the bulk of the work on the street. And that way we spot issues on the street. So when guys pay me for a full tune, we try to do it on the street. You spot the errors on the street. And that way we can fix stuff. It doesn't make sense we book a dyno for 6 hours and your money is booked in, and then only to find out that your car only runs on 2 cylinders when we get there, and we have to postpone that tune. So street, put it on the dyno, make the power. What I noticed, especially for our local dyno, it does not load the car up the way it does on the street. So on my last tune that I did on my car, on our local dyno, which is a Dynocom, when I did my runs, certain boost levels were made on the dyno, but then when I put the car on the street, the car immediately hit boost cut. So the street was loading up the car a lot more than the dyno. That is not the dyno's fault. It's just something you have to consider when you're doing dyno tune. So every good tune should ideally start on the street, go to the dyno, get your numbers, clean up part throttle, every single thing, MBT and all what you're looking for, make your numbers, and then take that car off the dyno and put it back on the street to confirm little things like acceleration, enrichment, and all of them things. You cannot do that on a dyno. You cannot check tipping. At least I don't know how to do it. I don't think if someone knows how to check that on a dyno, please hit me up. I do not know how to do it on a dyno. You have to do it on the street. And speaking of tipping, a lot of people ask me about it. How do I tune it? It's a feel thing. A lot of people get caught up chasing the numbers. Hey, I stopped my throttle and I saw the car go down to like a 10 AFR, or I saw it hit 13. Is that too? That's instantaneous. It's not. For throttle tipping, I usually say that as long as the car feels good, the car feels crisp, I don't care what the wideband is saying that it's doing. When you quickly stop the throttle, it could be going down to a 10, I don't care. Could be a 12, it doesn't really matter. So as long as your car feels good, then that's important for throttle tipping. And in addition to that, the most important part of the tune, I will touch on it because we're talking about street versus dyno tune. The most important part of the tune, and then the time I spend a lot of time on, is little stuff like cold starts and idling and acceleration enrichment. Because despite what YouTube and the internet and social media would like to have you believe, the most important part of the car is the parts that you get to enjoy and witness every day. So you get to go to work, you rush into work on a morning. You don't want a car that you have to go in and pump the throttle and crank it a million times before it starts up. You want something that you can reach out, reach your hand through the window, start it up, your car starts and idle, it warms up just fine. I see it way too many times. Guys have a lot of horsepower. They come to a track and their car, they switch it off and they need 5 minutes to try and restart the car. It just cranks and cranks. So that's not acceptable to me. Little things like drivability, you drive in, your car doesn't buck, your car gets good fuel economy. That's where our car lives 90% of the time. So what sense does it make to have a billion horsepower and you cannot cruise your car without going through half a tank of gas? All right, guys. So I am not sure if there are any more comments. Yeah, Vivian Fang. Yeah, so may not be the opinion may not be popular, but it's the truth. I try to speak the truth. Sometimes that is not very. Let me see. All right, so I'm just checking to see if there are any comments. Again, I have two phones. I struggle with YouTube and doing all of this stuff, so I do not know. How do I get the comments? All right, so guys, so I'm going to give you guys a minute. Any questions before I leave? We're into this about half an hour. I said I was gonna do 30 minutes. Hopefully I can do one next week or so when we're in Toronto and we're on the dyno, or with Kofi or with the guys. I'm totally lost as to how. Okay, I don't know how to see the comments, guys. All right, so I guess I will end it here tonight. So I will try sometime next week when I am in Toronto to do a live stream to have. Vivian, have you done any work with Project ECU? Project ECU, I think that is a Mexican. What I know of Project, I think Project, I say Project because I'm not Mexican, they pronounce the Y as a G or G as a Y. So what I know about them is that it's a Speeduino based ECU, so it should be just about the same as every other ECU. What I noticed is that they have an enclosed case, really nice looking case. So for the most part, I don't think it should be any different from any Speeduino ECU. I'm not sure what board they use as a base. So a lot of ECUs use the V0.4 as a base. So you have to input that in the software to tell the ECU that you're using a V0.4 base ECU, the Speeduino ECU anyways. But I have not personally used them, so I do not know off the top of my head how well the build quality. They look good. I think WTM Tronic sells it along with I think they have a drive-by-wire controller as well. So they're looking like they're making some good stuff, but I have never used them. All right, guys. So if nothing else, I will let you guys go. I'll go have some dinner, and again, like I said, I'll try to do it at least once a week if possible. If nothing else, I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks for logging in. Thanks for spending 15 minutes with me. See you guys next week.